Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of February 17th. Before we get started, the last few weeks I've been talking about area fisheries and events going on. I don't have any posters on the front door right now that have anything locally going on, but there is the Battle on Bago, which could be the largest fishery in the state. It's a pretty big deal. Folks come through the shop here from far and away to go up there and join in the festivities. They give away $345,000 in door prizes, boats, trucks, everything you could imagine: beer tent, fish fries, tons of bucket raffle type things, raffle prizes. And it's a cool event going on today and tomorrow up on Lake Winnebago. Money raised for that from that event goes towards kids conservation projects and programs and stuff like that. So if you're looking for something to do, I've heard the perch bite up there has been pretty good. Some good bluegills in some of the bays. So if you're looking for something to do, maybe worth a look. Take a little trip up there. The other thing I wanted to remind folks is the DNR is asking for the public to report on mud puppy observations. So if you happen to catch a mud puppy, the DNR would like to hear about it. Apparently, they're a little concerned about their populations. I've caught a couple, not for many years, but on Mendota. So they are out there, and the DNR, like I said, would like to know if you've caught one. So if you have caught one, just Google, DNR mud puppy, and this page came right up for me. So yeah, just wanted to remind folks about that. Otherwise, as far as the report goes, I do want to stress that this report is for current conditions as of today's date. Many factors can cause ice conditions to vary, so please be careful no matter where you fish. For up-to-date ice conditions, feel free to call the shop at 241-4225, and we can let you know what we're hearing around town. Otherwise, this last weekend, we had temps in the 40s, nice, beautiful, sunny days. Then we had some rain come through during the week, and then snow last night. With those warmer temps, the ice definitely took a hit, and then we got, I don't know, probably 5-6 inches of snow last night. And it was really cold this morning, so that'll help lock things back up pretty good. Looks like some more warm temps into this weekend, but then it sounds like a nice cool down this next week. So I'd say if I had to guess, the ice conditions will probably remain about the same of what they've been. But of course, all that remains to be seen yet. Uh, around town generally, folks are finding bluegills shallow with some crappies mixed in, some decent tip-up action for pike and largemouth bass in shallow areas, and still hearing about decent walleye action in some of those shallow areas near deep water. Mid-lake humps has also been good for those. Most of that action happening at dusk and dawn. Monona, Wabisa, and Kegonsa Lake Basin perch action has been spotty, but deep water perch action on Mendota has been good. But the fish seem to be a little more scattered recently. A little more detail here. Up here on Cherokee, I've heard about some gills been moving in there. I've been up there fishing myself. Caught some gills, no real size, but a lot of flags, so it keeps my boys occupied. So it's a pretty good time up there. Haven't heard much out of the 113 bridge, but that area could be opening up this weekend, and I know a lot of folks are chomping at the bit to get in to do some open water fishing. On Lake Minota down here, like I mentioned, the perch bite's been pretty good. A lot of fish coming out of this west basin still. They are finding good numbers of fish, but if you do happen upon a school of fish and you catch one or two and they seem small, I would just recommend moving. You're likely just going to keep killing small perch by bringing them up because of the barotrauma. So, and those small fish tend to hang out with other small fish. So move around a little bit and try to find some more keepable fish rather than killing the small ones. But there are good numbers of perch out there, which of course bodes well for the future. I've heard about some other perch up off the Governor's Island area. Some of those fish have been preferring minnows actually over spikes, so that's a little bit of a change. All the fish I've been hearing about have been out of anywhere from 60 to 65 feet of water, and maybe a couple areas approaching 70 feet of water, but pretty much that 60 to 65 feet seems to be the best bet. Otherwise, all around Lake Mendota, anywhere shallow, the pike action's been fantastic. That action's only going to improve now that we're getting close to late ice, as those pike put the feed bag on, getting ready to spawn. Walleyes have been caught on mid-lake humps, Dunn's Bar, Second Point, Commodore Bar, Brearley Bars, even the city shoreline has been good. Governor's Island area has been good for walleyes. So a lot of walleyes in the system right now. Not a lot of keepers. Can catch 17-inch fish all day long, but they got to be 18 to keep. So catch a lot of those, but yeah, it's good numbers of fish out there. I haven't heard much in the way of panfish anywhere shallow around the lake. Typically this time of year, some fish start to move into University Bay, but I haven't heard anything specifically regarding that. Down on Monona, um, I don't get a lot of reports. I haven't seen a lot of people out on Monona. That probably has to do with the fact that there's a bunch of sketchy ice out there. So areas to look out for is where the Yahara River dumps in. Over here, the Rock Pile area and Toniwatha. Um, Areas down here, and also about half of Squaw Bay, or Wickawack Bay as it's called now, was um, had some pretty sketchy looking ice down there, and that's not going to be made any safer now that it's covered with snow. So do be careful on areas, especially on Lake Monona. But there are folks getting out. There's folks running ATVs all over the lake. Folks that are looking for perch are finding huge schools of them. But the problem with these perch is that they're moving unusually fast this time of year. So the folks that are getting into perch are and finding them and able to stay on top of them are the ones using like the live scope style technology, that horizontal sonar, to stay on top of the fish and kind of predict where they're moving. Um, I haven't heard much in the way of panfish out on the main lake, but the panfish bite on Monona Bay continues to be great. I've heard about some nicer sized bluegills recently, and the crappies have been moving in there the last few weeks, and they should remain in there until they spawn in May or so. So that's been some good news down there. Lake Winger's got a bunch of tiny bluegills and um, some little perch in there, but the tip up action sounds like it's been improving. I haven't heard much out of like Turbo Bay down here at all this year, and like I mentioned, Wickawack Bay over here is just got a bunch of sketchy ice. Usually that's a great kind of late ice spot for some panfish and of course pike. Over here to Mud Lake, I haven't heard what the conditions of the walk across the marsh in from the county parking lot over here is, but it was, I'm sure, very sloppy after the rain we got last week and warm temps. But it was pretty cold last night, so maybe that's locked up a little bit. Folks that are getting out to Mud Lake and fishing the dredge hole area are finding panfish, bluegills on the weed line and in the weeds, crappies suspended, occasional walleye and pike on tip ups. So a lot of nice mixed bag of fish in there. Down on Wabisa itself, I haven't heard a lot coming out of Lake Farm still. A few bluegills here and there, so that's, I guess, something new. It's been a dead sea up there for quite a while. But then also heard about some pike coming off the north end, but nothing real too earth shattering up there. Main lake basin perch have been spotty, but the folks that are finding fish have been able to catch some. Have been doing all right. There've been some tight-lipped fish, a lot of lookers, few takers, but some folks are getting fish down here. Walleyes around Hog Island, Babcock, and Bible Camp have been good areas for walleyes. I haven't heard anything about bluegills down here on the south end. If that bite's improved, usually fish kind of move in there for this time of year, but haven't heard anything in the way of that. Down to Kegonsa, kind of a similar deal as Wabisa. The basin, folks chasing perch out in the basin have been finding a lot of tight-lipped fish, but a few folks are getting fish now. Down on the southern end of the lake in the weeds, I've been hearing about some bluegills out down here. Those fish are also hard to find, but can be some good sized ones in there. Pike all around the lake in shallow areas. And walleyes, Williams Point, I've heard a little bit, but I haven't heard much in the way of walleyes off Kegonsa. Down on Koshkonong, I've heard about some sketchy ice down there, and particularly up here by the where the rock dumps in. I saw a picture of an ATV that went through, or I guess it was a UTV, but whatever, a vehicle that went through. And so use caution when you're out there, especially in current areas on any lake. Upstream of Lake Koshkonong, I haven't heard anything out of Fort or the river between Fort and Jefferson. I have heard that the Jefferson Dam is fishable. I have not heard if anybody's catching any fish up there yet, but sounds like the water's pretty much open up there for fishing. Up to Beaver Dam, I've heard about good walleye numbers continue to come out of there, but a lot of short fish. I think the size limit up there is 18 inches, so that's been a little bit of a hot bite this year, but the size seems to have dwindled a little bit. Over here to Devil's Lake, it sounds like folks are getting trout. A lot of folks like to fish the southwest side or the south end of the lake in general. And some folks are reporting great days out there. Other folks are getting skunked. you really just got to catch the bite window out there, and that bite window can move from anywhere right at first light to be right at noon, to last all day. You just have to kind of put your time in and be out there when it happens. I have heard about some folks getting out in boats at all the dams in the area, so on the Wisconsin River. So Prairie du Sac, Castle Rock, Petenwell have all been producing some walleyes and sauger in those areas up on Lake Wisconsin. The walleye bite sounds like it's been a little tough in the lake itself. I have heard about a little bit of a crappie bite down here in Moon Valley, and there is some kind of a fishery or some event going on in Moon Valley this weekend, but I don't have any details on that. Otherwise, Whalen's grade and the fingers have been slow from what I've heard. The walleye action out here, like I said, has been slow to folks that are getting fish are mostly short fish. I have heard about some crappie in wooded areas, though. Haven't heard much out of Portage. Like I said, Wisconsin Dells Dam has been producing some walleyes. Castle Rock Dam has been producing some walleyes below there, but also up on the main lake, Castle Rock Lake, I've heard about some panfish action improving up there, and some walleyes starting to improve after it's been a real quiet winter up there for those folks fishing Castle Rock. Petenwell Dam also has some good walleye and stuff backed up there, folks fishing in boats. Petenwell itself has been producing some walleyes, although I've heard a lot of shorter fish lately. Some panfish improving in some of the shallow bays, but for the most part, the walleye bite continues to be pretty good up there from what I hear. Over to the Mississippi, I hear they're getting some good perch in DeSoto and Stoddard areas. DeSoto Bay in particular has been pretty good from what I hear. So if you want to take a trip out there, that's some truly world-class trout fishing. I'm sorry, perch fishing out there. I had trout on my brain because I was talking about trout over here in Milwaukee, and the Milwaukee River has been pretty quiet, and the snow melt isn't going to help much with runoff, but I heard they are getting some fish in the harbors again. No report on what the ice conditions would be like out there, but I have seen on social media some folks getting some fish out there. I don't know much about what's going on up the coast up here. Lake Winnebago, like I said, they got the Battle on Bago up there. I know the ice up here in like Door County and Green Bay is pretty sketchy from the warm temps we've had. But otherwise, as far as trout fishing goes around the area, I've heard about some good action happening on most area streams. The snow melt isn't going to help this weekend, but after that, conditions look like they could be improving. I would focus on deeper, slower water and deeper pools. Woolly buggers with maybe a nymph behind them is a pretty hard to beat option. You can't deny the effectiveness of a pink squirrel. Is a great winter fly. If you're running spinning gear, a small Rapala, maybe a countdown, run slowly through a deep pool, or tube jigs, kind of jig slowly through a deep pool, can be also very effective. More the trout fishing is only going to get better as things start to warm up here, so pretty excited about that. I guess that's pretty much it for the report. If you have any questions, feel free to call us here at the shop, 241-4225, if you want any further details. Otherwise, appreciate you tuning in. Leave your comments and catches below. Love to hear how folks are doing out there. And we'll just talk to you next week. Good luck out there.